Chapter 1. Hero's Purpose.
The story begins with a 4-year-old Izuku Midoriya sitting beside his mother, Inko Midoriya, listening to their doctor with bated breath, while also being presented with an X-ray photo of Izuku's foot, and the doctor was going in depth on a pressing matter, ultimately saying that people with quirks possess one joint in their pinky toe. The doctor continued, saying that the young Izuku possesses 2 joints in his pinky toe, meaning that Izuku Midoriya didn't have a quirk. It took only a few moments for Izuku to connect the dots, causing him to have a pale face from the point they left the doctor's office up until they went home. That same night, Inko caught Izuku watching a video on her monitor of his idol, All Might, performing an act of heroism with an inspiring smile on his face. Izuku turned around slowly with very subtle tears forming in his eyes, and asking his mother if he could still become a hero like All Might. The response given to him was everything he needed to hear. If you have the drive and willingness to become one, then you can become one. This left Izuku in utter shock, because he wasn't expecting such an answer from his mother. But before he could process anything, she rushed at him for a hug while crying bucket loads of tears. Izuku attempted to return the hug, but still unintentionally maintaining the pale face he's had since their visit to the doctor's office. This left Inko to have some worries for Izuku's future, so she looked all over the internet after Izuku fell asleep, searching for a good therapist that could help him, and she eventually found one. The morning after, Izuku was at his kindergarten playing with his friends, until just then, his friend, Katsuki Bakugo, walked up to him, telling him that he got his quirk and that it's super cool. This was followed by a representation of his quirk, which were small, sparkling explosions that came from his hands. Izuku was left in complete awe at Katsuki's quirk, and started asking him all kinds of questions. Katsuki answered all of them with pride, and allowed Izuku's idolization of him to boost his ego, and that led to a question that caused Izuku to suddenly stop talking. Katsuki asked Izuku what his quirk was, and said that there's no way that it could be better than his, and the response he heard was completely unexpected. Izuku said that he didn't have a quirk. Katsuki gasped for a moment before starting to chuckle, and then it turned into a laugh. Katsuki, in between laughs, asked Izuku why he would even be showing his face to him if he's just some useless person, and then Katsuki's friends joined him in making fun of Izuku. He didn't expect that response from Katsuki, so he joined them in their laughs. But that annoyed Katsuki because now he was seeing Izuku as someone insignificant. Thought processes like this were happening all across the world. This was because over 80% of the human population had a quirk ever since they started existing, and the number continues to rise. So why shouldn't someone feel superior to someone else that didn't have a quirk? As a result, Katsuki began to hate Izuku, and that led him to say something prophetic for Izuku. Katsuki said that if he's going to be so useless, then he deserves a name befitting of his stature, and after some deliberation with himself, Katsuki said that Izuku's new name is Deku, which meant good for nothing, and continued to laugh. It was true, Deku was useless, just like most 4-year-old children, but this ostracization angered Deku, because he had been friends with Katsuki for as long as he could remember, and now he's fine with throwing all that away just because he doesn't have a quirk. Deku was furious. In Deku's mind, he was having an internal conflict. He was debating to himself on whether or not he should continue to be friends with Katsuki, ultimately deciding what he will do, depending on Katsuki's answer to his question. Deku's pale face occurred again, and Katsuki noticed that, saying that now the quirkless nobody was getting scared, and he was about to continue until he was cut off by Deku's words. "Do you really think I'm worthless without a quirk?" asked Deku, in the most serious tone that Katsuki has ever heard before. Katsuki's answer was exactly what Deku expected, but also didn't want to hear. Katsuki scoffed, saying that quirkless people are just a burden, and that Deku should get used to it. This response led Deku to do something he never thought he would have to do. He looked down in contemplation for a few seconds, as if mentally preparing himself for what he was about to do, then locked eyes with Katsuki, with determination burning in his heart. "If that's what you believe, then we shouldn't be friends anymore. Goodbye, Bakugo," said Deku, as he slowly walked away. In the years following this incident, Deku would be bullied and beaten endlessly by Bakugo and his friends, and ignored by all his teachers and his former friends, and this led him to lose hope in himself and his aspirations. But there was one incident that reignited his passion in heroism. It was the day after his 6th birthday, which was also the day that he started elementary school. Deku noticed Bakugo and his friends bullying a boy for having a weak quirk, and Deku involuntarily started running in to protect him, standing in their way. And this infuriated Bakugo because he's despised quirkless people ever since Deku turned his back on him 2 years ago. So his reaction was very blunt. Bakugo punched his palm as explosions came off his knuckles. He told Deku to step off while he's feeling nice. Deku refused, and that led to Bakugo stepping forward to launch an explosion his way. Deku didn't move and took the full force of the explosion, and the amount of damage sustained was just about as much as it would be for any other regular person. Deku had a gaping hole in the side of his head, and all Deku saw was Bakugo's face go from pure ego to confusion and then back to anger. Deku was feeling the pain, but he was refusing to show that in front of what he believed to be a villain, which was Bakugo. But there was something peculiar happening. Every time he was getting hit with explosions by Bakugo, he would feel the pain. But then it was followed by a warmth, as if he was getting healed. Deku still didn't understand the situation, but he stood there and took all of Bakugo's attacks until he got tired, which was when he took that opportunity to punch Bakugo in the stomach and then sweep him off his feet so that he'd be on the ground. Bakugo was now looking up towards Deku, and Deku told him that he needs to stop this madness before he becomes a real villain in the future. Those words infuriated Bakugo, but he was too tired to do anything, and all he could do was watch as Deku helped the bullied boy up and start conversation with him. Deku and the bullied boy left Bakugo on the ground, while Bakugo's friends walked away as if they didn't know him. The conversation between Deku and the boy was a back and forth, ultimately talking about how annoying Bakugo was. But then the conversation shifted into quirks, which was when Deku asked the boy what his quirk was. The boy said that his quirk was called Sparkle, and that it allows him to create a small sparkle effect from his hands, which was why Bakugo was bullying him, because he thought that he was copying his quirk, and his pride and ego wouldn't let that happen. And that led to a silence which was broken by the boy, and he asked Deku what his quirk was. Deku frowned and said that he's quirkless. "What? There's no way you're quirkless. You were missing half your body by the end of the fight and it healed back in a matter of seconds," said the boy with a surprised tone. Deku didn't know what the boy was talking about and said that he was just saying things to cheer him up for being quirkless, and that Deku didn't want to talk about how he was quirkless, and that he instead wanted to talk about how cool his quirk was and all the applications it could have. The conversation went on for a few minutes until their lunch period was over, so they had to say their goodbyes. But when he got home, he took the boy's words to heart and ultimately decided to put it to the test, believing that he had nothing else to lose. Deku pushed a chair into the bathroom and stood on top of it so he could see himself in the mirror, which was when he gathered the strength to punch himself in the face, and he felt the familiar warmth, but didn't see any damage, so he took it to the next level, walking into the kitchen and grabbing a knife. He walked back into the bathroom, and on top of the chair, which was when he prepared himself for the pain to come, he poked multiple holes into his forearm with his knife, and he watched as they healed very rapidly, to the extent that it seemed beyond just superhuman. And his mother came home from work in that moment to see what Deku was doing. It terrified her, and she rushed to stop Deku from doing what she thought he was about to do. But he looked happy and his body didn't have any scars or anything like that. She paused to demand answers from her son, and he said that he had a healing quirk, and a really good one at that. This led Inko to comfort Deku, saying that he didn't need to go that far to prove his point, and that they will go and see the quirk doctor tomorrow to figure out what was happening. What happened in the following week was interesting. The quirk doctor continued to say that Deku was quirkless, and instead asked him for a blood sample so he could send it to different departments so they could get to the bottom of this, and at the end of the week, Deku and Inko got their answer in the mail. The letter in the mail ultimately said that Deku was still quirkless, but that he had a genetic mutation that made his body subconsciously heal itself tenfold faster than any other human. This meant that his potential for growth was possibly faster than anyone else in the world. To Deku, he took this as an opportunity, so he used every chance he could to train his body, working himself nonstop, and his healing factor allowed his body to constantly grow muscle, which made Deku even more determined, and by the time he entered middle school at 12, he was standing at 6 feet, 5 inches, with a terrifyingly dense and muscular physique. But he came across a block. Yes, he was strong, but he didn't know how to actually fight. So he tried looking for gyms that could teach him. But every gym was too expensive for him. So he put it aside for now, deciding to continue working out for the rest of his middle school years, until something very interesting happened during his third year.
I hope you guys enjoyed. Sorry for the abrupt cliffhanger ending, but make sure to like the video if you enjoyed it, and to leave any reviews you might have in the comments. One final thing, make sure to leave any suggestions that you might have on my Discord server and not in my comments section. It helps keep everything more organized. Goodbye.